With the 2024 College Football Championship week all set and prepared to go, there are several teams that are vying for spots in the college football playoff, and some teams opportunity at their inaugural season conference championship. Meanwhile, there are several teams that are vying for an opportunity at the selection committee's choice as one of the 12 teams in this year's inaugural college football playoff. Want to find out which teams won their respective conferences and are moving on to the college football playoff? Stay tuned to find out on Gridiron Gab Triple Option. Welcome back, Gabbers. Thank you guys so much for joining us on this wrap up of the College Football Championship weekend. Of course, you're hanging with your man, Mr. CeeLo. And guys, I can tell you, this was a pretty good weekend, but I can tell you there were still some issues that I saw with the officiating. And I'm not going to get too much into that. But as I said, I hope the officiating is not biased during these college football playoff games. And like I said, this is ruining football. We got to get more consistent with what we're calling. But yeah, let me get on and see what my man Brad has talked to me about. Hope you guys are doing great. And I will get into all of the chaos that is Alabama not getting into the playoff, as Brad has been kind of slow on me, as he says, family had a birthday party at my sister's house, ain't until the 10th. Okay. Hey, happy to hear you, brother. Glad you still came by and gave us a gab out. Gab out to you, old buddy. Gab out to you, old buddy. And I also did not get with his other comments as well. So I always try to get back with you guys and try to do as much as I can with getting your comments out there, as Brad always does. A friend, a student of my smart dog. Let's see. God love Brad. He's my guy. He's a great guy. He's my hero. He's my best friend. That's funny. I knew Georgia Tech was going to be tough. They finally got a good coach, and Tech run out of gas. Brad, I ain't going to say they ran out of gas. I think their coach kind of did them in. And then there was some controversy there about whether or not there was a helmet-to-helmet hit on Georgia Tech's quarterback right there when the ball came out. I mean, it's arguable. I don't think that's going to get, you're not going to get that call. I don't even know why there were people that were willing to say that was even part of the discussion. It is what it is. Yeah, boom, Miami. Yeah. I think should be in the Gab. I think I should be in the Gab Hall of Fame. You already are, bro. I already told you, you're going to have first dibs when we go live. When we start having a little round table, you're going to be one of the first guys. You may end up being just a permanent. Now, I ain't going to be doing this by myself forever. Ashton lets his plays do his talking, unlike Travis. Exactly. That's how I feel. Pony Express ride on. But unfortunately, yeah. Go Orangeman. Yep. Put Bama in the sales tickets. That's exactly right. Why you always hating on the dog? No, you can't. No, I'm not hating on the dogs. I just call it like it is. Don't hate on the dogs. I just think, like I said, you one of the few dog fans that I can actually have a good, meaningful conversation with, Brad. Most dog fans are arrogant, cocky. For what reason? You have the top recruiting classes for like the last 6-7 years. You got 2 natties to show for it, and if it hadn't been for major players getting hurt, you wouldn't have a single one. See, I can say that to my buddy Brad, but needless to say, there's a lot of Georgia fans that don't understand. Kirby ain't that good either. Panthers suck too. Can't talk about my dogs now. Yeah, we suck right now, but we gonna get better. Ohio State. Indy still rocks. Yeah, I know, man. We gonna win it all. We gonna win it all. I'll talk about that later, though. I let the cat out of the bag. Yeah, Miami defense suck. They're terrible. They're terrible. Their defense is not good. It's just, yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, Miami's defense is not good, and we're gonna see that reflected in the rankings and why they're not going to be in the college football playoff. But now that we've gotten the housekeeping out the way, we've introduced ourselves to Brad. Once again, let us get into if many of you guys don't know, I am a Dublin native, born and raised, graduated class of 97. Our football team was in the state semifinals. We got rocked pretty good this weekend, but my nephew will be back next year, and just getting ready for him to throw his thing down. Love you, nephew. Gab out to you. I was listening to this game while I was watching the Dublin game between number 10 Boise State and number 20 UNLV, and I'm gonna tell you, this 21-7 game. A lot of people are going to say, well, why was not Boise State able to do what they did? I'm going to say, Hajj Malik Williams did everything possible to put UNLV back in this football game. Now, most people don't remember, but UNLV had a quarterback controversy going into this season. But they got it figured out. And unfortunately, Williams is going to be gone next year. But this guy he did everything he possibly could to keep this team in a situation to win this game against Boise State. When they scored in the fourth quarter, it looked like, because they were on the verge of scoring yet again. They had stopped Boise State, and they were on the verge of moving this ball, and they just couldn't get it done. So when people look at this 21-7 and they say, oh, well, UNLV's 10-3, and they're not a pushover. They were 6-1 on the road, and Boise State on its blue turf was undefeated. And as we've said, we've looked at Ashton Jonty, who had 32 carries, over 200 yards on a score yet again. And as I've told many of you, he's my pick for the Heisman. I don't care about whether you're being a two-sport athlete. This guy is by far the top rusher in the country. It doesn't matter what defense he's playing against. I get sick and tired of hearing you crybaby, whine baby, power 4 people talking that, because reality of it is I've already straightened this out. Travis Hunter didn't play any valid competition. You heard me. You might be able to point out one game. Jonty played Oregon. Jonty played Oregon. I've already told you that. But to me, what set this game apart, it was very cold out there at Boise, but this offensive line that Boise has is not bad. If I can point out one liability that Boise has, is going to be the passing attack. And their secondary. Their secondary is not very good against the back shoulder. They're going to have to clean some of that up. But, however, Boise stops the run well and they run the ball well. So this is going to be an interesting matchup. When I just want to let you guys know, every participant that is in the college football playoff, I am going to give my predictions. I'm going to give 3 possible scenarios as my predictions. I've got 3 different scenarios how it's going to play out. And then I'm going to go through every team's travel in order for it to get the perfect bracket for this team to win a national championship. Whether it's what needs to happen, who needs to win, and so on and so forth. So basically that means every team is going to have to go through Mr. CeeLo's keys to victory, or Mr. CeeLo's bracket formula for the upset. Boise State 12-1 wins the Mountain West Championship again and will be going to the college football playoff. Then we have number 24 Army 35, Tulane 14 to win the AAC, or the American Athletic Conference Championship. And they finished the season at 11-1. Now, here's the real irritating thing about why I thought this should have gone to 16 teams, and I'm almost at the point where they need to. And it's going to get to a point where they're going to eliminate. I agree. There's been several people that have said they're probably going to eliminate the 4-team buys as far as the conference champion goes. I think the way that needs to work is the first 4 teams, the top 4 teams need to get a bye, and then you need to take, after that, conference champions get what you call home field. I think they need that. You always winning the conference should always get some kind of benefit for winning their conference, regardless. Well, whether it's ranking or whatever. If they're not in the field of 16, guess what? You give them the 16th seed, they get a home game. They're not in the field, they're the highest ranked. You put them in the 15 or 16 spot, they get a home game. You can sit there and whine, cry, and complain. There's a benefit of them winning their conference. Sorry, you don't have to like it. Go join their conference. But looking at this game, Tulane's lost 2 in a row before jumping into the college football top 25 rankings. Bryson Daly, once again, he throws 2 passes for 17 yards, but then he runs for 126 and 4 touchdowns. Everybody sits here and they say, oh, well, I could stop this, or I could do this, or I could do that. Here's the thing about Army. It's outside of Notre Dame. Ain't nobody putting up points on them like that. See, for everybody to say, I want to play Army. Okay. You got your chance. They get 4 non-conference games. Sure. I was just telling some guy on one of the Facebook groups, if you so confident that you can beat Army, why don't you schedule them? I mean, you'd rather do like Alabama and put Mercer on your schedule. I'm sure Army would love to have $1 million and go to Tuscaloosa. But see, you don't want to do that. But like Nick Saban was complaining, saying there's going to be teams that are going to go back and reschedule this and reschedule that. Reschedule Mercer? What, maybe Wisconsin, who was down this year? You actually traveled, did something Nick Saban hadn't done for almost 15 years? Go to somebody else's building? I mean, to me, like I said, Saban is the reason for all this. He was a prime offender to this. He was horrible at doing this. He would sit there and basically, in a nutshell, oh, well, I'm going to not play anybody. He did it for so many years. Don't nobody feel sorry for Bama. There were many seasons they played nobody out of conference. Everything they played was either on a neutral site or in their building. So I don't want to hear this whole, teams are going to take people off. No. Because the fact of the matter is, fine bum, you're an SEC guy. We already know where this goes. We already know where you're going. Because here's the reality. Army had 1 loss. Doesn't matter who you beat. To me, it don't. Because every week you walk out there with that goose egg in your L column, you're going to get the best from everybody. You didn't have no 0 in your L column when you faced off against Oklahoma.
You fucking idiot. Dumb shit.
What are you talking about? Dumb shit. Fine bum. What are you talking about? And this is the thing that irritates me when you sit there and you want to cry. Well, they ain't got a strength of schedule. They ain't got this. So? I mean, how many times do they say in the NBA, you win or you go home?
Get going.
And Army just has done a fabulous job being able to push themselves defensively, because here's a team that does not have the after aforementioned talent that so many teams do. You can sit there and cry about it if you want to. You control what conference you're in. You control who you put on the schedule outside of your conference. You didn't get punished because you lost 3 games. You got punished because you lost 2 bad ones. 6-6. No matter how bad people want to say that Northern Illinois loss was to Notre Dame, they went 8-4. Oh, yeah. You can sit there and cry foul all you want to. That loss is bad, but see, most of y'all don't even realize why that loss happened.
You don't have to answer that question.
Quarterback played hurt. It was a coaching mistake, without a doubt.
I'll answer the question.
The quarterback was hurt.
You want answers?
It's not like, well,
I want the truth.
Georgia's quarterback was healthy. Bama's quarterback was healthy.
You can't handle the truth.
Okay. In the story. So stop complaining. But looking along here, as I said, Army just did their thing. They continuously do what they're doing, just absolutely eating up the clock. 338 yards rushing the football. And Tulane just could not get that high-powered offense going. Once again, Tulane is having issues with that passing attack, and it really was illustrated as Tulane was only able to score 14 points. And yeah, it was a great start. It was a great start. Not so much on the finishing end as Army goes to 11-1. And upsettingly, we won't get to see them in the college football playoff, which I think we should. You know, I really do. The way they've been beating on teams, I don't think a team like this should have to go 11 or 12-0 in order to get in. And their only loss was to a team that you, in my opinion, shortchanged in putting them as the 7th seed. But hey, that works out for the Irish. And you have to watch the show to find out what I mean. Next, we got arguably, oh my goodness, all of these games were just good. Because I'm going to be honest with you, I thought these were going to be beatdowns. Arizona State, let me go ahead and get this out the way for all of you who ain't watched them. They going to be trouble. They going to be trouble. I'm going to tell you right now, if you ain't careful, if you come up on the Arizona State Sun Devils, they might pull an upset. I'm trying to tell you, don't sleep. Look here. You look at Sam Levitt and Cam Scatterbo. I love this kid. This Scatterbo kid, if y'all ain't watched him, y'all need to watch him. You know who he reminds me of? Mike freaking Allstott. I'm going to tell you, he ain't got Mike Allstott's vital statistics, but I'm going to tell you, he's 5'11", 215, but he hits you. This guy gets the football and he just goes straight ahead. 16 carries, 170 yards, 2 touchdowns, and had a 53-yarder. And he even added 2 grabs, 38 yards, and a touchdown goal. A fantasy dream. But to me, this game was definitely won in Arizona State's trenches. And what's scary is Arizona State's best wide receiver didn't even play. And this game was really capped off by that 21-point third quarter that the Sun Devils were able to throw out. Capped off by Xavier Guillory's 2 touchdown catches. They were short ones, but I'm telling you, this guy is going to cause some serious issues whomever they play. The 6'2", 200-pounder, this guy, he figures out how to get separation. And then he's got that elite size, which is impressive to go with the guy that they're missing. I'm going to tell you something. Arizona State is going to cause some problems. They are going to cause some serious problems for a lot of teams when you start looking at the way this team plays football. They like to run the ball and then they like to take the shots. Now, I'm not saying they take shots every single down, but what they like to do, they like to get Scatterbo the football and they will swing out Levitt on the run. He likes to run it too, and he's a tough running quarterback. He's going to cause a lot of teams a lot of problems here. And if I recall correctly, it's going to be Texas and or Clemson that's going to draw this team. Whoo, buddy, that is going to be one heck of a matchup. You hear me? That is going to be one heck of a matchup to see with these teams that like to run the football going at each other. This is going to be fun. And this is what I was, when they came up with the college football playoff, this is what I was hoping for. And the player's Jordan Tyson, by the way, you guys. This guy has 75 grabs, 1,101 yards, 10 scores. They beat them without this guy on the field. Can you imagine they get this guy on the field? Don't sleep on Arizona State, y'all. I'm trying to tell you. Now, granted, Iowa State did turn the football over. I mean, that's something that you got to throw in there. They had some turnovers, and it just seemed like Arizona State came out with their hair on fire. Because when you look at the statistics, Iowa State is methodically moving the ball down the field. 23 first downs to 17 for the Sun Devils, and they were 7 of 14 on third down. But Arizona State, 467, 341 in total yardage. Just totally dominating on that side of the football. And then you got to count the 3 turnovers. So, theoretically, that's 21 points. So, you're talking about this being a 40 football game if Iowa State's able to hang on to the football and not turn it over. But needless to say, this was just a football game that was just dominated by the Arizona State Sun Devils in the trenches. A very good, well-coached football game. And honestly, Arizona State, like I said, they are going to cause some problems. I love that Scatterbo kid. And just imagine when that Tyson kid gets back. Woo, woo, woo. I'm kind of glad I don't have to see them unless I see them in the national championship. Final in overtime, Georgia 22, Texas 19. Now, Brad, you can sit here and talk that noise. You can say whatever it is you want. I did pick y'all. But you better hope you don't see these guys in the natty, because that's when you will see them. Because this is the second time Texas done had y'all by the tail, and they let you off the hook. Now, there was some bad officiating in this game as well. So any Georgia fan can sit there and cry about the last one. And that's why I say I can't stand Kirby Smart, because he didn't say nothing about, well, we kind of are getting some today. He never said that once. But he can sure enough stand his butt up there and cry when he ain't getting them. Georgia 22, Texas 19 in overtime. And I'm gonna tell you, if Gunnar Stockton is the guy, I get it. Carson Beck was not doing his thing. But the truth of the matter is, if it's Gunnar Stockton, I can tell you right now, if you're a Georgia fan, you do not want this guy starting. I'm trying to tell you, I don't care how many weeks he's got. Because let me just talk about this game. And I will say this, to me, it seemed like Texas didn't know what they wanted to do when he came into the game. It was almost like they were trying to figure out what it is they wanted to do. It seemed like they were very confused. Etienne had 94 yards on the ground and 2 scores. Yeah. That's more like the old Georgia football team that we saw between Nate Frazier and Etienne. These guys both combined for 141 yards. As when you start thinking about what Georgia needs to do, the first thing they got to do is hope Carson Beck can play. And I think the NCAA needs to keep a close eye on this, because I can tell you right now, they're gonna do is leak as little as possible to get Beck and Beck will play, or they'll tell you as little as possible and then Stock gonna come out there and he'll play. So yeah, I think ultimately they better monitor this carefully, because Kirby, he loves to have he loves to play a little sneak. But ultimately, as I said before, Quinn Ewers is not the dude here. I'm just not sold on him. There were several throws that he missed that would have been touchdowns, including the pass interference play that was blatantly obvious, Georgia fans. But the problem is, you didn't need to get a pass interference play. The ball was underthrown. All you had to do is put it on time. 6 points. You had him beat. That's a situation you don't need. You don't need a back shoulder. He's got him beat. And then the play where they call back the one that Ewers missed at the goal line, that wasn't no pick play. And I'll prove it to you. The Georgia defender had the receiver engaged. He's trying to run his route. He wouldn't have ran into the Georgia defender had he not been pushing him away. He basically pushed him right into the daggum Georgia defender. How's that his fault? Yeah. But see, the relevance of that is not just that he didn't score if he had scored a touchdown, it would have been a touchdown off the board. Should not have been. But as it turned out, it was a 15-yard penalty that killed that drive for Texas. And another thing, your kicker missing 2 kicks.
What the
Bruh.
Not good. Not good. Game don't even go to overtime. And Quinn Ewers still has not figured out how to get out of the pocket yet. I'm gonna be honest with you. Quinn Ewers done had 2 shots at Georgia. I know what a lot of people gonna say, don't do that. Arch Manning. Come on down. Wisner had 51 yards on the ground. I thought Georgia did a phenomenal job at stopping the run. Much better than we've seen throughout the season. I've seen a lot of instances where Georgia has not been able to efficiently stop the run. They're doing a great job, but at the same time, if you get a team that's going to misdirect them, they're going to be in trouble because they go at the first thing they see. Not good. Texas did a pretty good job early on, but as you know, Georgia's going to come up with some changes. They're going to make some alterations to their game plan, and they did. You know, needless to say, when Carson Beck got hurt, I'll tell you, it was really different seeing this guy come out and do his thing. And as far as the penalty that they gave on the targeting penalty, I didn't like it. I think ultimately it's one of those where you're a runner. You're going to make the tackle. I didn't like the call. Not a fan of it. You're taught to go and make the tackle. Put your hat on the ball. That's what he was trying to do. You know, if you're not going to call that same thing when in the Georgia Tech game, you don't call it here. Make sense? Yeah, thought so. But ultimately, Georgia gets the win in overtime, which was, in my opinion, Sark did a good job. He had a good game plan. I just ultimately don't think Quinn Ewers is his dude. He's not. He is not his dude. And the truth of the matter is when you get to a point where all you can do is bring Arch Manning in on the first possession of overtime, I would have stayed with him then. I would have stayed with Arch. I'm not even going to lie. I would have stayed with him. You know, because, I mean, you look at it, you got 5 yards on that drive. I mean, see, you got 5 yards on the first with just Arch Manning running the football. And the issue with Quinn Ewers is he was more mobile 2 years ago. Now all of a sudden, his mobility just gone out the window. I get it. But in this modern age of not only the National Football League, but even college football, you got to have some form of mobility. He can't. I hope somebody has a use for him, but it ain't for me. Georgia 22, Texas 19. They are victorious in the SEC title game. Georgia will lock down one of those buys, and more than likely will face off with yours truly.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't want to give too much away. As Texas will be on the outside looking in as well, they will, all intensive purposes, be hosting a playoff game. Then we moved to the Big Ten championship game, which was obviously, and no surprise there, Oregon finishes an undefeated season, 45, Penn State 37. Now, I will say what surprised me is that Penn State kept this game this close, which enabled them to open the eyes of some of the pollsters and give them the number 6 spot over Notre Dame and Ohio State. Which I know what people are going to say. You know, in my opinion, I thought Ohio State played them better. You know, this is a neutral site, and Penn State was able to stay close. As Ohio State had to go into Oregon and listen, I'm going to tell you something. I don't care what people have to say about that. They had a worse loss, but the reality of it is they played the number 1 team in the country in their building. But I'll get into that. Guys. I don't want to overstep my bounds. I was actually impressed with Penn State. Drew Aller actually played a little bit better than I thought. They were very fortunate to be in this game. Very. I'm gonna show you why. And if any of you guys watched this game, and I'm gonna say it like this: Penn State showed us one thing about Oregon. Oregon is not as unbeatable as they look. I'm dead serious. I mean, you look at what Penn State was able to accomplish. Nearly 300 yards on the ground.
Run.
Y'all know why I'm smiling, right? If you know me, Brad knows me. He knows why I'm smiling.
Stop the cap.
Dylan Gabriel, 283, 4 touchdowns. And Jordan James had 87 yards on the ground for 2 touchdowns. Noah Whittingham had 82 yards. Oregon had 186 yards on the ground, 2 scores. This was just one of those shootout games. And honestly, I felt like if Penn State and Oregon got into a shootout, this was going to favor Oregon. And the truth of the matter is, when you look at the statistical aspect of this game,
2 INTs
are really the only thing that separated Penn State from winning this game. I mean, the only category that they did not beat Oregon in was passing yards. And I mean, well, let me take that back. Oregon had the time of possession. Shocking for a team that likes to run tempo. And the truth is when I watched this game, turnovers didn't really make a difference, but penalties didn't make a difference, but these turnovers were absolutely massive. Because when you start to sit down and break this game down by little bit, you get behind to this team. And I honestly said, when they scored a field goal on their first drive, that was the difference maker. You know, and the truth is, when you start trying to look at all the possessions they had in that first half. This was not a game where you had 5-6 minute possessions. These were fast-moving halves, and that's going to be something that a lot of teams that see Oregon are going to have to get into the habit of. You can't try to run slow with these guys. You got to try to run the same pace. You got to try to run with them. And look at this. This is Penn State. 2 plays, 12 yards on the interception play. Look at that. That's when they got up big. It was already 21-10. Then they made it 28-10. So you got to admire how they fought back. And then they came back and they scored 2 touchdowns in a row. And then they had a missed field goal. When they had cut this thing to 31-24. Could you imagine if they could have cut this thing to 31-27? Then they had an interception right there at the end, which really, that was the backbreaker. So, in my point of view, Penn State had every opportunity to win this game, despite the fact they got down as bad as they did. They were down 28-10. Then it was a point, it was 38-24. And they were able to hold Oregon to 7 points pretty much the rest of the way. From 7 minutes to the third quarter, and it left in the third quarter, they pretty much held Oregon intact. If they could have just scored on their opportunities. I mean, yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. Oregon's defense ain't no pushover. But the truth of the matter is that this game was Penn State's, despite the fact there was many moments that it looked like James Franklin's team was about to just get absolutely dogged out of this stadium. I mean, there were moments I was, I'm done watching this. Because, you got two games on. So you simultaneously watching two games. And it's just kind of like, where do we go from here? And Katron Allen had 124 yards on the ground. Nicholas Singleton, had 105 yards on the ground. Both of these guys, 229 yards on the ground. Did you see that? Oregon gave up nearly 300 yards on the ground and gave up 54 to Drew Aller on 5 carries.
Run.
Then you had Tez Johnson, who arguably is going to be one of those guys that the NFL is definitely going to be looking at as a feature slot receiver. You're going to have to get in that weight room. But outside of him, there was really not anybody else except Tez. Tyler Warren had 7 grabs, 84 yards for Penn State. Now, this guy is going to be somebody that opposing teams are going to struggle with. Because this guy's 6'6". He reminds me a lot of Michael Mayer, and he's just as mean. So, when Aller needs a play, that's where they're going to go. But Penn State's going to be mad at themselves because they had the opportunity. I still think Drew Aller's not the answer. I think you're going to need to go into portal if you're James Franklin. Oregon wins its first Big Ten championship in its inaugural season in the Big Ten by putting up 45 points and holding off the Penn State Nittany Lions comeback, 45-37, as they will get the top spot and bye in the college football playoff. And finally, we got probably the craziest game of them all. The number 17 Clemson Tigers, 34, and the number 8 SMU Mustangs, 31.
The ACC Championship.
This was a crazy game because finally SMU played a defensive line that was pretty good, and they couldn't hold up. And it was great watching Kevin Jennings really get his head together and get his head wrapped around what he was seeing with Clemson. And you notice that this was a guy that was saying, okay, I'm going to stop looking down the field and I'm going to start just taking off. And ultimately, what I didn't understand is why he didn't get much help from his receiving corps. Look, I'm going to run all verticals. My nephew had sat right there and said, why don't they just run all verticals and run one guy across the formation?
Damn, I'm good.
Bruh.
I don't know. Because it looked like Clemson was dominating this game. And it was going to be a blowout. But then you see the Stangs do what they always do. They came out and they scored 17 points in the fourth quarter. Unfortunately, it came up 3 points short. And when it mattered most, this was a team that they're a lot like the Hurricanes. The only difference is that I would put SMU's defense as a little bit more active and better tacklers than Miami. They are much more aggressive tackling, and especially once they get a dime on what you're doing, it's not easy to play with them. But SMU outrushed the Tigers by almost 100 yards. Can y'all guys believe that? Oh, yeah. You look at the statistics. They're not supposed to win this game. Now, I will say this. Looking at Mr. CeeLo's formula for the upset, you got 2-2. Clemson held the football longer, and SMU had 2 turnovers. Then you got to look at the fact that Clemson didn't rush the ball but for 64 yards. They did not pass the Stangs. Total yardage, they didn't win. First downs, they didn't win. So, needless to say, they were very fortunate because, as I've told y'all many a times, when Mr. CeeLo's formula for the upset comes to pass and you don't get all of those things, you don't win those categories, that's usually not a good omen. It really isn't. Or could it be maybe Clemson's still the better team? I still look for the Stangs to make some serious noise in the college football playoff. Clemson, not so much. Clemson, not so much. But most people are looking at Cade Klubnik and they're saying, oh, look at him. He looked good. He looked all right. I mean, 24 for 41, 262, 4 touchdowns. Okay. Well-called game. They couldn't run the football. And they adjusted well. Bryant Wesco Jr. had 8 grabs, 143 yards, and 2 touchdowns. The true freshman looked very impressive. You know, in reality of it is, the Stangs are actually weak in their secondary. They're not very good in coverage, but that's no excuse. But the reality of it is, Wesco had a game that was for the ages. Welcome to the big boy league. But Clemson gets the victory and they get the final playoff spot as they will enjoy. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, they get the last bye, the last Power 5 spot. And that was our NCAA conference championship games for the year in 20 and 24. So congratulations to our winners and our runners up and the crybabies that are sitting at home wondering why they didn't get in. Which leads us to who got in the college football playoff. I will go through these very quick and I will also let you guys know, as I said at the beginning of the show, I will be doing a show as to each team's perfect run to a national championship. What needs to go right? What matchup needs to happen for this team in order for that to happen? And believe it or not everybody in this can beat every team out here. There's a lot of things that have to go right. And believe it or not, that all depends on how good your offensive line is, how good is your defensive line, how good your secondary is your quarterback mobile, is he not mobile, so forth and so forth. I will dabble into those until we get to December 20th. When we initially get the kickoff, it is going to be so much fun. I cannot wait. You know, this has been years in the making, you guys. Been waiting for this for the longest time, and it is finally here. Let us start down here with my guys. And if you guys didn't know, and I'm not going to be a guy that's biased. I love my team, but I'm also a realist too. My Notre Dame Fighting Irish host the Indiana Hoosiers. Now, I want to go ahead and get this out of the way. You can cry about you not getting the home game, but I will agree here. You need to be grateful you got in because there's a lot of people around the country that say your strength of schedule doesn't matter how bad you're beating them. Okay? Notre Dame had teams on their resume that were in the top 25 when they faced them. Some undefeated. Doesn't matter where they ended up. It's a matter of where they were at that moment. You didn't have anybody on the schedule that was ranked at that moment. You've been kicking the crap out of people, but the reality of it is, be glad you got in. Don't sit there and cry about it. You didn't get the home game. You technically got one in state. You just got to travel about 3 hours. Next time, handle your business. Simple as that. That is Indiana versus Notre Dame. That will be the only game played on Friday, December 20th. Then we will see at December 21st, Saturday, it will be number 11 SMU going to Happy Valley. Guys, if you thought SMU and Clemson was fun, this really gonna be fun. This really gonna be fun. Then you got the Tennessee Volunteers going to the Horseshoe to face off with Ryan Day and the Buckeyes. Okay, that game's going to be at 8 o'clock on December 21st. Psh, I should have said that one last. And, of course, you got the 4 o'clock game, which is going to be the Clemson Tigers, who are the 12 seed, going to Austin to face off against that raucous crowd in RFK Stadium to face off with the Longhorns, who are going to be not happy. But they will host the game. And then to follow up the buys, you've got number 4, Arizona State. And there was a mistake by myself. I was under the impression that these teams that got the bye were going to be playing in their buildings. That's good news for me. They will not be hosting a home game. They will be, as Arizona State will be in the Chick-fil-A Bowl, the Peach Bowl. Oregon will be hosting the Rose Bowl. Boise State will be hosting the Fiesta Bowl. And this is not going to be good if this is Penn State, because Boise State's got their people right there. As we go back to the Rose Bowl, Oregon's got, if it's Ohio State or Tennessee, Rose Bowl favors the Oregon Ducks. Not a good scenario. Peach Bowl, the team that it would benefit would be Clemson more. And then we look at Georgia, which would be hosting the Sugar Bowl. This would favor this wouldn't really favor either team more or less. Both teams, all three teams have a pretty good fan base, with the exception of Indiana. Indiana's really never. You got to go all the way back to the 1960s before they've even been in a situation remotely close to this. So we're not going to be sure how they would travel if they were to pull the upset on the Irish. But we know the Irish and the Dogs travel well. But right now, that's the way the brackets look so far. And you guys know where I'm at with it. But I will go through and give you guys the lowdown on what I feel. It's going to have to be the scenario for this team to win a national championship. And then I will give you, as I said, 3 predictions as the way I see the national championship truly going. Who's going to win and who's going to end up playing on January 20th. And do I think this is going to be a huge success? Absolutely. And I will also go through, I'm going to have a show immediately following this show as to why I believe these teams should have got in and why I think the committee did get it right. But if you guys have opinions why you think they didn't get it right, please leave your comments down below. Also, make sure that when you comment, be nice. Just be nice. This is all about conversation and debate. Conversation and debate. But that's going to do it for us here as we got to it. We're right here at near the finish line, guys. We've got round 1, the quarters, the semis, and the finals. Finally, something we can look forward to. And not to mention, if you guys have a high school here in the state or any state, and they're in the state playoffs, or in our case, getting ready for the state championship games, go support them. Those are young men that are going to be playing possibly in games such as this. You get an early look at them and an early opportunity to check them out. But as I said, make sure you go to Gridiron Gab Triple Option on Facebook. Find out what things we got going on. I will have a poll up asking you which teams do you think will advance to the quarterfinals. As well as, do you think the committee got it right? Finally, go to my Instagram at Mr. CeeLo and find out what shows and other things that I'm involved in. So you can also drop me a line there. Tell me if you don't like me or if you love my takes. And later on, when we get this show out on the road, you can put in to be a guest on the show. But once again, gab out to my man Brad. Thank you so much for always commenting, brother. And some of you other guys, if y'all are watching, please, by all means, drop a line. This is what this is about. Let Mr. CeeLo and the whole Gridiron Gab Triple Option community let it know what you think. But until the next time, same Gab channel, same Gab platform.